world, Americans will pause this Veterans Day to honor our brave fighting men and women who for more than 230 years have underwritten our freedom by their duty, honor, and selfless service. We recognize that all our veterans have given something of themselves to this country, and some have given all, laying down their lives to defend the freedoms we hold so dear. This morning, as we reflect on the blessings of our liberty, we ask that everyone be faithful stewards of the freedom we have been granted. Let us never forget that we cannot rightfully celebrate the joy of our freedom without remembering the great price paid for that freedom. We stagger at the eternal debt we owe to the untold number of American veterans who have chose to set aside their personal ambitions and dreams to assure the well-being of our great nation. We, the living, are indeed the beneficiaries of those who made tremendous sacrifices for the advancement of our liberty. May we always be humbly grateful to those brave American patriots who suffered and sacrificed for the freedom of all Americans. For those soldiers who have stood guard in peacetime, and to those who have seen the terror, the horror, and the inhumanity of combat, and to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Let it be said that our soldiers have been there for America, defending the Constitution of the United States. To all our veterans, we have a simple yet heartfelt message. Thank you. Thank you for your unwavering service in peacetime and war here in this nation and throughout the world. For all veterans, regardless of their service and the era in which they have served, they have paid the price time and time again. They have defended America through both the best and worst of times, and they have performed their duties tirelessly with little recognition or fanfare. They have sought neither fortune nor fame. It was merely a simple love of America and the freedoms we all cherish so much. Soldiers know what it is like to stand guard in the chill of the night while others sleep. They understand the meaning of hardship, standing watch at freedom's frontier far from their loved ones. It is this devotion to duty that gives us all strength looking out onto the world. We see our soldiers serving in over 100 countries throughout the world, and the legacy of our veterans continue to inspire our American soldiers today to answer the call of duty. Each year, on the 11th day of the 11th month, we pause, as a nation, and as people to pay tribute to you, to thank you, to honor you, the heroes over the generations who have served this country of ours with distinction. Students and staff, seated in front of you today, we are honored to have all these men and women who have served our country both during wartime and peacetime. We have veterans and current service members from the wars in the Middle East. We have Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans, and incredibly a couple of World War II veterans. These heroes and their families have all made a great sacrifice in their lives so we can enjoy the freedoms and liberties we have today. Please join me in thanking these American heroes and their families. At this time, I would like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies for today's program. He is an Emmy Award winner and has received multiple Edward R. Murrow Awards, including 3 this year, which recognize exceptional work by radio, television, and online news organizations. We know him as the gentleman who brings us 10,000 stories. Please help me welcome KARE 11 News reporter, Mr. Boyd Huber.
Thank you, Bianca. Fabulous job setting the stage for this wonderful event today. Let's have another round blessed because I have the opportunity to tell stories for a living. And over the years, I've told many. Some of my favorites have been about veterans. 35 years ago, when I was a brand new reporter, I had the privilege of coming to events like this and interviewing World War I veterans. And that perspective reminds me how fortunate we all are to still have the opportunity to recognize and honor World War II veterans. Veterans of the wars in Korea and Vietnam, the time in between and after. We are indeed blessed to have that opportunity. It's always struck me that to a person, every veteran that I've ever interviewed has been incredibly humble. Men who stormed the beaches of Normandy 75 years ago this year, who have told me, I'm no hero, I was just doing my job. To all the veterans gathered here today, we have news for you. We know better. You may notice the chair draped in a black cloth just off to my left. This chair represents all those still listed as POW MIA who can't be here with us today. Congressman Tom Emmer was sworn in for his first term in the U.S. House of Representatives on January 6, 2015. He is currently serving his third term in the 116th Congress. Congressman Emmer was recently elected by his fellow Republican colleagues to join the House GOP leadership team as chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee. Currently, he sits on the House Financial Services Committee. He is also a member of the Republican Deputy Whip team in the House Republican Steering Committee. Born in 1961, Congressman Emmer grew up in Minnesota and attended St. Thomas Academy. He received his BA in Political Science from the University of Alaska Fairbanks and his JD from William Mitchell's College of Law. After practicing law for several years, he opened his own law firm. The next 20 years were spent balancing family, business, hockey coaching, and serving on the city councils in Independence and in Delano. Before coming to Congress in 2004, he served in the Minnesota House of Representatives from 2004 to 2008. He and wife Jackie have been married more than 30 years and have 7 children. They reside in Delano. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome United States Congressman Tom Emmer.
Thank you, Boyd. It's an honor to be here with you this morning in one of the best high schools in the state of Minnesota, Blaine Senior High School, in the home of the Bengals. Thank you for having me this morning. You can clap for the Bengals. It's an honor to join all of you on this incredibly important day. To all of our peace officers and firefighters here today, to all our elected officials who are here today, and to our Anoka County Sheriff James Stewart, who we are looking forward to hearing from. Thank you all for being here this morning, and more importantly, thank you for your service. Now, it's an honor to serve in Congress, but it's really special to be invited to be a part of your celebration to honor and never forget our military veterans. You know, we're pretty lucky to have been born into this country. I've had an opportunity to travel a bit, and I can assure you, after having visited places like Africa, Vietnam, and Cuba, we have it pretty good. Is our country perfect? No. But then what is? And yes, not all Americans have an easy life. But when compared to the rest of the world, and specifically to some of the places I've just mentioned, we have it pretty darn good. And why? Why do we live in the greatest free country the world has ever known? It is because we are free. It is because we have the freedom and opportunity in this country to be the best we can possibly be. But it is also because America, the nation you and I were fortunate enough to be born into, has been willing to protect the light of freedom here at home and all around the globe. Yes, America as a nation has been willing to protect freedom, but it is the few, the brave Americans who actually have served our country in times of war and peace that have made and make it possible for you and me to live safely every day and to exercise our freedom here at home and around the world. That is what this day is all about. It's about honoring the men and women who have served our country in the military to protect our freedom and our freedom around the world. It is the veterans of our armed services, those that made it home and those who made the ultimate sacrifice. These are the people we remember and we honor today. We must never forget their sacrifice and the sacrifice their families made. From the trenches of World War I to the liberation of Paris to the dangerous streets of Fallujah, our American soldiers have been there. We, you and I, are able to sleep safe at night because of the service and sacrifice that our military veterans and their families have made. In my humble opinion, today, too many people in this country take their freedom for granted. Too many people have no idea what it would be like to live in a country without the freedoms we enjoy. The freedom of speech, the freedom to travel, the freedom to associate with whomever you wish, and a whole lot more. More importantly, there are people who do not understand or appreciate the sacrifice of our founders and those who have come before us. The sacrifice to create a country based on the premise that all men and women are created equal. A country where we understand that all men and women have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Some simply do not appreciate that freedom is not free. Fortunately, we have people in our country who not only understand and appreciate this, but they have been willing to serve and sacrifice, some with their lives, to defend our precious freedoms and the greatest free country the world has ever known. Today, Veterans Day, we honor our country's commitment that these soldiers, our veterans, will never be forgotten. And that we will always remember not only their sacrifice and the sacrifice that they and their families have made on our behalf, but the reason for their sacrifice, to protect the light of freedom for this generation and generations yet to come. Thank you again for having me this morning. May God bless all of you, and may God continue to bless this great country, the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. At this time, we would like to present the branches of our nation's military, the Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Navy. As we call out each branch, we invite everyone in attendance to stand when the branch you served in is announced, or if you have a family member who served in or is currently serving in, please stand when their branch is called out.
war.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. At this time, we would like to present our nation's colors. Our flag today is being carried by 4 extraordinary women who answered our nation's call to service and served as nurses during the Vietnam War and continue to serve following the war. They have combined for over 75 years of military service. They have helped treat and care for thousands of wounded soldiers. They had to deal with numerous emotions, stress from the amount of patients they had to serve, anger at seeing young men so horribly wounded, and guilt at not being able to save all the wounded men or make them whole again. During the Vietnam War, 98% of the men who were wounded and made it to the hospital survived. Nurses witnessed some truly miraculous events, such as men recovering from their wounds or acts of true selflessness that are common during combat situations. And many nurses made close friends with their fellow co-workers, some of whom still keep in contact into the present day. I am honored to introduce you to these incredible women. Lynn Bauer. Lynn served as a captain in the Army Nurse Corps from 1970 to 1986. She had 2 years of active duty service, which included Vietnam and at the 24th EVAC Hospital in Long Beach. Lynn spent her last 14 years serving in the Army Nurse Corps Reserves. Following her military service, Lynn has been a nurse manager more than once. Her best job, however, was at the crisis intervention nurse at St. Joseph Hospital ED for 13 years. Since then, she worked at the St. Joseph Mental Health and Addiction Clinic, where at 71, she's still working part-time. Lynn is the proud grandmother of Blaine High School sophomore, Aaliyah Bauer. Dorothy Dottie McKinley. Dorothy served in the United States Air Force Reserve as a flight nurse for 3.5 years during the Vietnam era. She was a civilian registered nurse when she enlisted in the Air Force as a second lieutenant. Dottie received flight nurse training at Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio, and in March of 1967 became an active member of the 47th AES squad based at the Minneapolis Airport. She was eventually promoted to first lieutenant and then captain, and was honorably discharged in August of 1970. Dottie has treasured memories of her flight nurse experience aboard C-130 cargo planes that have been converted to flying hospitals. She treated and provided care to plane loads of severely wounded and traumatized soldiers on their way back to the United States. Many of the flights were from Japan to Alaska, where they were transferred to other planes for transportation to hospitals for further care. Dottie has painful memories of the disrespect those brave young men endured during the later years of the Vietnam War and for many years thereafter. There will always be a special place in her heart for all veterans, but especially those of the Vietnam era. Dottie had a lifelong career in nursing, retiring in 2005. She is a widow, mother of 3, grandmother of 1, and she owns and operates a small farm in Blaine, her hometown, since 1976. In retirement, she has been deeply involved in city and community affairs and has maintained a military connection through membership in the Society of Air Force Nurses and the Women Veterans of Minnesota. Jean Mahaffey. Jean Mahaffey was born into a Navy family, the oldest of 6 children. Her dad was a blimp pilot who served 20 years in the Navy. She had a strong desire to be a nurse and travel, so decided that the Navy was the way to go. After nursing school in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Jean entered the Navy in September of 1969 and went to Newport, Rhode Island for her Navy orientation. Stationed at Great Lakes Naval Hospital for only a year, she went to Vietnam on the Navy hospital ship USS Sanctuary. After Vietnam, Jean went to Guam for 2 years. Her other duty stations included Portsmouth, Virginia, Spain, Pensacola, Newport, Rhode Island, and back to Pensacola, where she retired as a commander in the United States Navy after 22 years of service. While stationed in Portsmouth, she went to the Navy OB/GYN nurse practitioner program and spent her assignments caring for active duty and dependent women and delivering babies. She retired in 1992 and came to Minnesota, where she helped care for her mom with dementia for 16 years. Since the death of her parents, Jean has been active in the Navy Nurse Corps, the Joint Retiree Activity Board, which plans an annual update for all military retirees on their benefits. And she works with 2 church groups preparing mission quilts and quilts for our veterans. Jean is a member of the Minnesota Women Veterans Group and works with the Twin Cities Honor Flight, which is a very rewarding opportunity and experience for military and civilians. Kay Bauer. Kay Bauer grew up in St. Paul with 13 brothers and sisters. Graduating in 1959 with a 4-year BS degree from St. Catherine University, Kay received her commission into the Navy Nurse Corps. Her senior year was paid by the Navy. After about 8 years in the Navy, Kay accepted an assignment to Vietnam as a member of a 7-unit forward surgical team, advisory team, in Roc Ya, South Vietnam from 1966 to 1967. Positioned in the local Vietnamese provincial hospital, she was provided care for U.S. wounded military, along with the team providing surgical care for Vietnamese military and civilians. Kay worked closely with her colleagues, both American and Vietnamese, in that hospital without running water or electricity. A small generator in the operating room provided the electrical needs. Kay served in the Navy for 35 years, retiring as an 06 captain. During those years, she was stationed at Rhode Island, New York, Japan, Guam, Illinois, Vietnam, Virginia, U.S. Nurse Recruiter Midwest, North Carolina, California, Washington, Germany, and the United Kingdom, establishing ICU and CCU units and working in every type of nursing. Kay specialized in pediatrics and education. Kay was one of 7 Vietnam nurse veterans Diane Evans invited to assist her in erecting a Vietnam Women's Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. This group also became the first nurse PTSD group and continues to support each other to this day. After leaving the Navy, Kay worked at United Hospital in the ICU and taught emergency medical education in a line of hospitals and facilities. Kay now lives in Coon Rapids with her awesome husband, Vern. They have 6 incredible grandchildren, 2 fantastic sons, and an amazing daughter-in-law. Please join me in thanking these incredible angels of mercy for their service to this country and for caring for Ladies and gentlemen, our nation's colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we recite our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as the Blaine High School Concert Choir and members of the Blaine ASL Club lead us in our national anthem.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated as we prepare for the official wreath laying ceremony. During this ceremony, we will honor Blaine High School staff members who are veterans and also Blaine High School seniors who have enlisted in the United States military. Presenting the wreath for the United States Coast Guard, Marine Science Technician, Second Class, Alex Franke. Presenting the wreath for the United States Air Force, Major Amy Norquist, accompanied by Special Education Para Angie White and Blaine High School Senior Terrence Lemley. Mrs. White is 20 years retired and served from 1997 to 2018 as a Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force Reserve. Presenting the wreath for the United States Navy, Construction Mechanic First Class David Smith, accompanied by Social Studies teacher Ross Burbick and Blaine High School seniors Kayla Leasy, Luke Johnson, Faisal Abir, Logan Walk, and Zach Benson Mick. Mr. Burbick served from 2019 to 2016 as a petty officer, second class, on board the USS Picnic in the United States Navy. Presenting the wreath for the United States Marine Corps, Gunnery Sergeant Baron Fernando, accompanied by Blaine Security Guard Alan Clems and Blaine Seniors Samara Faraj and Elizabeth Sokolova. Mr. Clems served from 1996 to 2005 as a Sergeant E5 in the United States Marine Corps and was a computer technician in the Marine Aircraft Wing, spending time in Arizona and Japan. Presenting the wreath for the United States Army, Sergeant Peter Carlson, accompanied by Industrial Technology teacher in the CMS program, Doug Garrett, Industrial Technology teacher Joel Deppis, and Blaine seniors Jordan Kendrick and Dylan Nelson. Mr. Garrett served from 1986 to 1994 as a specialist in the United States Army Reserve. Mr. Deppis served from 2001 to 2010 as an E4 specialist in the Army National Guard. accompanied by CEMS teacher John Baer and Blaine students Private Sean Mallet, Private Andrew Huss, Private First Class Matt McCormick, and Private First Class Alex Luka. Mr. Baer began service in 2001 and is currently serving as a Lieutenant Colonel in the Minnesota Air National Guard. On behalf of the entire staff and student body, thank you for your service to our country. May we never forget all those who serve to protect our nation and our liberty. Ladies and gentlemen, please draw your attention to the front of the field house as Blaine seniors take a ceremonial oath of enlistment. Administering the oath will be United States Army Captain Patrick Campbell and Air National Guard Major Amy Nordquist.
All right, good morning. Again, my name is Captain Patrick Campbell. It's an honor to be here today. Wow, I can say I've been to many of these ceremonies. I've got another one this afternoon in this capacity, and I've never, ever seen anything like this. When I swore in as a future soldier, I did not have this opportunity, so wow. Again, phenomenal, the support that this school, specifically this community, shows to these young men and women. I want to start by saying thank you to the veterans here in the room. Your service is certainly laudable. To those of us still in uniform, absolutely inspirational. So a round of applause one more time for them. For these young men and women behind me, your service is aspirational. They've seen what you've done, they've heard the stories. You might be their mentor, their uncle, their aunt, mom, dad. brother, sister, cousin, whatever it is, and your experiences have influenced them enough to say, hey, I have a passion, I have skills, I have a place, a community that will accept me for who I am and what I want to do in service to my great nation. And again, that's phenomenal. So thank you for being here today supporting them as they start this journey. To be successful, you need teamwork, you need camaraderie, you need solidarity, and those things all mean family. So again, everyone here in this room, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting these young men and women. And again, they're about to start a journey which they're never going to forget. They're going to have stories, and they're going to have a great time, and they're going to need your support. So you leave here today, still here in spirit, still here supporting them. Call them, write to them, send them letters. They'll come back home and tell you all the great, wonderful things they've done, where they've been, who they've seen. But the support can't stay in this room. Carry it with you, and I know the ones that have served understand that and appreciate it, and will continue on that legacy as they continue on your legacy. With that being said, are we ready to go? All right, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulation and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Let's give him a round of applause.
Sheriff James Stewart is currently serving his third term as the Sheriff of Anoka County. He is the 17th Sheriff since the office was established in 1857. Sheriff Stewart has been married to his wife Lisa for 30 years and they have 3 children. They reside in Andover and are very active as a family in their church and in the community. Sheriff Stewart has demonstrated a commitment to providing the best possible services to the citizens that he proudly serves and actively participates in numerous collaborative and outreach efforts. Sheriff Stewart is active with the Minnesota Sheriff's Association as an executive board member and represents law enforcement at the MSA Legislative and Training Committees. He is also active on the national level with the National Sheriff's Association as an executive board member, a member of the Domestic Violence and Crime Services Committee, Youth Programs and Juvenile Justice Committee, and Global Policing Affairs Committee. He is a member of the Fight Crime, Invest in Kids, the Minnesota Domestic Violence Committee, the National Domestic Preparedness Coalition, the Executive Committee for the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, Vice Chair for the North Central HIDTA, High Density Drug Trafficking Area, a board member of the Equal Justice Committee, a board member for Hope for You, the Frontline Foundation, and Play to Your Strengths. He is the Secretary-Treasurer for the Joint Law Enforcement Council, Chair of the JLEC Central Communications Committee, and past board member for the Governor's Forensic Lab Advisory Board, and past President of the Anoka County Chiefs of Police Association. Sheriff Stewart served in the Marine Corps, and 2 of his 3 children are serving in the Marine Corps. He is a graduate of St. Mary's University in the 102nd session of the National Sheriff's Institute and studied public safety leadership at the University of Minnesota Humphrey Institute of Public Affairs. He is committed to the development of our youth, community partnerships, and service that exceeds expectations. He was awarded the Magnus Princeps Leadership Award by the National Command and Staff College of the Criminal Justice Commission for Credible Leadership Development. He was nominated for National Sheriff of the Year and was awarded the Medal of Merit by the National Sheriff's Association in 2015, 2016, and 2019 for his contributions to the community and to the field of criminal justice. He was also given the President's Award by the Minnesota Sheriff's Association in 2018 for working unselfishly and tirelessly for the good of the state of Minnesota and its citizens. It is his belief that by working together, we can make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Anoka County Sheriff James Stewart.
Thank you all. Good morning. It's a pretty tough act to follow, and watching all these young adults come up and swear such a significant oath to the future of America. So thank you all very much. That's awesome. It is my privilege to be here today as we come together on such a special day. I'm always honored to come out to speak to any audience, but it is especially humbling to stand here in uniform today and speak about the many American heroes that we honor on this special Veterans Day. There are many days throughout the year that hold significance to us as individuals. And there are also days throughout the year that hold significance to all of us collectively. Thanksgiving is a day that we pause and give thanks for the things that we have. But Veterans Day is a day that we pause collectively to give thanks for the people, for the heroes who fought to make it possible to have those things. And I would like to say a very personal thank you to all of the veterans gathered today. Thank you for preserving a way of life and freedom that I have always known. I'd also like to say thank you to the family members of those who have served. Some are now gone, for you have also paid a very high price for our freedom. The heroes who have served or are serving, and those we have lost, are forever worthy of our support and should remain in our prayers and in our hearts. It matters not the type of uniform they wore, but the content of their heart. Their commitment to selfless duty, their dedication to honor and to country, to service and to duty, and their pledge to protect us, even if the cost was their own lives. I grew up as a product of moving a lot, of multiple divorces, of domestic violence, and of alcoholism. But despite the dysfunction in my childhood, there was also many positive experiences. I was also raised to appreciate the little things, to respect my elders, to remember my manners, and to see all people as equals. Later, after high school, the Marine Corps reaffirmed that as they drilled it into our heads that there were no black Marines, no white Marines, no brown Marines, only green. You see, we knew that the only thing that mattered was supporting each other to accomplish the mission. And all of our veterans understand these values. And that holds true today. Nothing has changed. I'd like you to look around this room. And as you look around this room, remember that we are all on this ship together. If we sink it, no one benefits. But when we work together, we will be able to share in our successes. As I grew up, I learned a lot of life lessons, and I continue to be a lifelong learner. This morning, I'd like to be able to share a few of those lessons that I have learned along the way. One of the most valuable lessons that I learned is that your circumstances and the actions of those in your life do not define you, nor do they dictate what you are capable of. You decide how high you can fly. And I've learned that divisiveness hurts us all. Sadly, we are living in times when division is becoming commonplace and intolerance is the norm. We must stop all division and stop accepting those polarizing forces around us. We should ignore anyone who prospers from creating that type of division. They fail us because they don't seem to really understand what makes up the heart and the soul of America. As long as we choose to embrace divisive behaviors, accept propaganda as fact, and declare war on those who protect us, then our collective future is a scary one, and we have failed the next generation. But that is not who we are. As a nation, we are made up of many different races, cultures, and backgrounds. This diversity is the foundation of our nation, and it is what makes us great. But however different we may be, when we are attacked, we all bleed red, white, and blue. Yes, it is only united that we will stand as a nation, and it is only together that we will build up our communities. So please hear me clearly today. United we will succeed, but divided we will fail. And it is tragic enough that we would lose all that our veterans have fought for, but we would also fail our communities and our families. And we would fail the future generations in such a way that our streets would take decades to recover, if we ever did. So let's commit to come back together as Americans in honor of our veterans. Over the years, I've also learned that patriotism is noble and necessary for our survival. As I interact with friends and colleagues from around the world, I can tell you with confidence that the American dream is still alive and well, and sought after as the model for much of the world. See, that flag, all these flags that you see before you, there's so much more than a piece of fabric. That flag is a symbol of hope and a symbol of freedom across our globe, thanks to our veterans. Every single American should understand clearly what it took and the sacrifices made by our veterans over the generations to even be able to fly that flag here today. That flag should evoke an emotional response to all who truly understand her. We must instill and deepen the pride and the thrill of seeing that flag raised to every American child, and it must remain a part of the American experience, or our grandchildren will never enjoy the freedoms that we have come to take for granted. President Ronald Reagan said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. It's that important. I've also learned about the value of service. Over the years of my life, I've seen that some decisions can be life changers, and those who have made a choice to serve others understand what I mean. There's great reward for those who choose to put others ahead of self. Those who are self-serving fail to see the bigger picture. They fail to recognize their calling, and they fail to understand purpose. So take time to serve others, volunteer, and help where needed, even when you don't feel like it. It matters. And I've also learned that freedom is never free. Nothing is free because someone has to pay the cost. And I was recently reminded of that again. As we prepared to leave the airport, a beautiful new hearse displaying American flags rolled up on the runway near the plane on the jetway. And it was soon followed by white vans and Suburbans. Then I watched out the airport windows as a Marine Corps contingent exited the vehicles and greeted a pain-filled and mourning family. See, they had all come together to bring a fallen Marine back home. And I looked to my side to see if my wife had noticed yet. And as I looked at her, I saw tears streaming down her face. For you see, 2 of our 3 children are Marines. See, she knew, we knew, on any given day, it could be any of our nation's heroes. It could be any parent of a military hero, including us. And our hearts ached as we and the entire airport stood together in total silence, paying our respects. And as I have pondered patriotism, service, and freedom, I've also learned that our veterans deserve our undying appreciation and support. As a nation, we are protected by the greatest military powers in the world, and they are comprised of our brave men and women who have served in our armed forces to make a difference for us. Never miss an opportunity to thank them or show gratitude. We could not be here today if not for all of the veterans who have served. Some fought and some died so that our rights and freedoms could be preserved. Today, we pay tribute to those who have served and those who continue to serve on our behalf. Our veterans left the comfort of their beds, the security of their homes, and the loving arms of their families. They stood at the gates of hell and fought, sometimes losing their brothers and sisters in battles, facing demons that we can't truly understand. And they did that for us, to grant us the lifestyle that we have always known. A life of comfort, of free speech, free assembly, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, simply a life of peace in America. So thank you to our veterans for the life, again, that I have always known, and the gift of your selfless service. I believe that we're all given an opportunity to make a difference in our world, and it is what we do with that opportunity that defines us. Our veterans made the choice to use their opportunity to serve something larger than self, so that we may each live in peace today. Looking back, our founding fathers wanted to create a country free from oppression in which every citizen could possess life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They understood that it would require hard work, commitment, and sacrifice. They also understood that when you brought that combination of effort to the table and asked for God's blessing on it, that you could become unstoppable. However, at some point, we lost our way. We have decided that hard work is for someone else and sacrifice is inconvenient. We have decided that God is only allowed in our lives on Sunday mornings, if at all. And I can tell you that change in philosophy has created, because sadly I get to see every single day the evil attacks on our communities and on our families. However, look around this room, ladies and gentlemen. Collectively, we can be the change. I again say to you that today is a special change. It's a special day for change. Because today we come together to stand up for what is right, to show our support for our veterans and our protectors, and to accept the challenge to be that needed change, and to embrace a return to unity and to patriotism. Today we are privileged to gather with purpose to honor our military heroes who have gave up all of their liberties to protect ours, and some gave up all of their tomorrows so that we could enjoy ours. Today, I would hope that we would assert our commitment to a stronger tomorrow, embrace doing something with your opportunity that you've been given to establish your own legacy. Don't ignore opportunities to do good. It's never too late, and no act of kindness is too small. Thank you for allowing me to share a little of my story and my lessons learned, and I hope that your takeaways help you to ponder your place in this world and what it means to earn the privileges that I spoke of, and then pay it forward in honor of our veterans. It is my prayer that we would leave today to pause, to reflect, and to truly embrace what it could mean to go beyond the words and fully realize what it means to become one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you to our veterans, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Sheriff Stewart. I would now like to draw your attention to the flagpole at the center of the gym. Lowering the flag to half-staff is 99-year-old World War II veteran Stan Nelson. Served from 1943 to 1946 as a lieutenant junior grade communication and deck officer in the United States Navy. On Tuesday, June 6, 1944, Stan and his shipmates aboard the LCI 492 took part in the D-Day invasion, landing troops onto Omaha Beach, the largest amphibious assault in world history. The landings resulted in casualties of both troops and crews on the LCIs. Following the Normandy invasion, Stan served as a coastal patrol captain in the Pacific Theater. Last year, it was announced that there were 3 surviving shipmates from the LCI 492, and we were honored to have the opportunity to reunite Stan with Pete Fantico, his former shipmate, after 75 years. Sadly, Pete passed away on April 25th. This year, we had it all set up to reunite Stan with his other shipmate, 95-year-old Jack Claiborne. Sadly, Jack developed a medical condition and was not able to fly in from his hometown of Dyersburg, Tennessee. But he sent along a message and a gift for Stan today.
Hello, Stan. This is Jack Claiborne, your old 492 buddy from Tennessee. hope you have a wonderful time on Veterans Day and at the program up there. And I'm sorry that I won't be able to come. I had to have emergency surgery. I had scheduled to come, and so I won't be able to come, but my heart will be there with you. And I'm sending you a World War II cap. I ordered from Forever Young organization, and it's on the front it's got World War II veterans, and on the right side it's got Omaha Beach, and on the left side, on the back side, above the thing it's got Normandy, and it's got World War II, and on the left side it's got USS 492, and yours is supposed to be just like it. And I'm looking forward to seeing the program later, and hopefully next year I'll be able to see you. And we just love you and Marcy, and love being up and down there with you. And we've had some wonderful times together in Pigeon Forge at our reunions, and so hopefully we'll get to see each other again sometime soon. And you're a wonderful friend and a wonderful shipmate, and it's just amazing what good times we've had together. And just want you to know that Evan and I love you and Marcy, and we enjoyed being in your home at one time. And so I'm just so sorry that I'm not able to come. And so you have a good time, and I will talk to you later, and it'll be sometime soon. And anyway, I'm about to run out of something to say right off, but I will be talking to you, Stan, and we love y'all. And love to you and your family too. Tell that your son hello for me. Okay, and I really appreciate Steve doing all this for me, and he's been wonderful. And the whole bunch of you have been wonderful, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to pay tribute and honor those service members who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of this country with our Battlefield Cross ceremony. When the music for this ceremony has concluded, members of the Sergeant John Rice VFW Post 6316, positioned at the southeast corner of the gym, will fire 3 rifle volleys. I want to prepare everyone for those rifle volleys. They will be loud. When you see the last helmet placed, the music concludes. Then a few seconds later, you will hear the rifles being fired out that far set of doors. this time, we will retire the colors.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
In 1776, patriots created a document that would forever define who we are as Americans. Here, in part, is what they wrote. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Faithful lightning,
Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be part of this program today. Carol Evan has a long history of being associated with this special event, and I'm grateful to be the latest in that long line of presenters. Steve Geider extended the invitation. Steve is responsible for much of the planning that went into this event today. Let's have a nice round of applause. And to everyone else who made this event possible, the wonderful musicians, and especially our veterans who gathered with us today. We also want to acknowledge and thank Forever Floral for supplying the plants and flowers for today's program. And one final reminder, if you are a veteran and with us today, we'd like you to gather in the south bleacher afterwards for photos. Thank you.